Hello! Let's have a coffee and chat about dogs. One thing that's kind of controversial in the dog world is, should you get your dog from a rescue or a breeder? There's the two camps, adopt, don't shop, or adopt or shop responsibly. I happen to be in the latter, so let's talk about it. A rescue dog is a dog without a home. They might come from a shelter or a nonprofit rescue, or even a private rehome situation. But a rescue dog is a dog without a home. Generally, they come from some not great situation, but they might just be a dog without a home that hasn't been through any significant amount of trauma. A rescue dog is basically when you don't exchange money or don't interact with the breeder of said dog. And a breeder is someone who intentionally or occasionally unintentionally mates dogs for the express purpose of producing offspring. Unintentionally would be like an accidental litter or a backyard bred dog where the owners hadn't altered their dog and the dog got out and got pregnant or something. This is really good. They made it perfectly today. Generally, people want to do what's ethical, and so they want to get their dog from somewhere ethical. But the problem is people don't have all the information or all the facts, and so they don't realize they're getting their dog from an unethical source. And there are unethical breeders and unethical rescues. And then there's puppy mills, which I personally kind of put, like, technically they're breeders, but I kind of put them in a class all their own. Puppy mills are a special kind of evil. Both ethical rescues and ethical breeders are committed to the well-being of their animals for the duration of those animals' lives. And that's what's really important. For a breeder, that means that they are making really mindful choices in which dogs they pair when they're mating the dogs. And they have an express goal of producing healthy, temperamentally sound dogs. And for a rescue, that means, well, for both, that means they will take those dogs back at any point during those dogs' lives. For a rescue, that means they're trying to find a good home for that dog. They're trying to make good matches between people and the rescue dogs. And both breeders and rescues are doing that, but there's a little more diversity in behavior in rescue dogs in general, I would say. And so a rescue is really working hard to make the correct matches. And for both of them, it means they will take the dogs back at any point during those dogs' lives. If for some reason the person has to get rid of their dog, whether it's financial or personal, whether it's a good or a bad reason, that organization or breeder will take those dogs back, no problem, or work together with the person to find a responsible new home for that dog. They're not going to let the dogs go back into the system. That is key. With an ethical breeder or an ethical rescue, they don't want to put any more strain on the shelter system or on the rescue system as a whole. And so they're going to make sure those dogs don't end up falling between the cracks. I think when you're getting a new dog, no matter who you're getting it from, it's really important to clarify the goals you have or might have for that dog long-term throughout its life. If you want to show your dog, that's something you need to take into consideration. If you want to do dog sports, that's something to take into consideration. Therapy work, service work even. If you just want a pet, these are all things to take into consideration. Do you live a lazy lifestyle and you want a dog that will be able to just laze on the couch with you all day? Or do you live a pretty active lifestyle and you want a dog that can keep up on hiking or backpacking trips? To live in harmony with your dog, you really just have to clarify your priorities and your goals. Another consideration is going to be keeping your family safe. Whether your family is just you or you have any health concerns that could be affected by a dog, or your family includes little kids or big kids or elderly people, those are all things to take into consideration when thinking about, okay, what's the best fit for me? What's the safest fit for me in a dog? What do I need out of a dog to live a harmonious life together? Keep saying harmonious, and I don't know that there's anything particularly harmonious about dogs, but the most stress-free life that you possibly can live with a dog, and the most enjoyable life that you can live with a dog. That's what I mean when I say in harmony. If you are a really active person, you probably don't want a dog that can't keep up on a hike. If you are a pretty lazy person, you probably don't want a Malinois because they are a breed that's, a lot higher energy and higher drive and needs to work. Some other considerations that we're going to get to later in this video are, what is your personal risk tolerance for potential health and behavioral issues? And how important is it to you to give a dog with a not so positive background a safe and stable home? And everyone's priorities are different. So these are all things that you just need to kind of consider what's more important to you and what's less important to you. Everyone's priorities are different, so it's a very personal decision. You might choose a rescue if you're just looking for a pet or a sports dog. You don't have any specific expectations with this dog. You can find dogs of all breeds or mixed breeds and all energy levels and all ages in rescue. So you can find a dog that generally matches your lifestyle in rescue. But if you have specific goals with that dog long term, you might want a little more predictability in what you're getting. And so then you might want to go to a breeder. You might want to go to a rescue if you really prioritize being a safe home for a dog that might not have such a great past or might not have some trauma, or if you get a lot out of providing a home for a dog that didn't have one. You might choose a rescue if you have a high risk tolerance. If you are willing to deal with whatever behavioral or potential health challenges come your way, a rescue might be a really good fit because you are equipped to take care of those things and you want to take care of those things. You might choose an ethical breeder if you have specific goals, or you have a low risk tolerance, or want something predictable and something is going to be predictable. Many rescue dogs have totally predictable behaviors, are great pets, do not have behavioral issues. I do not mean to imply that all rescues have behavioral issues. They don't. However, an ethical breeder does have a really good idea of the breed's behaviors as well as the specific dog's behaviors for generations going back into that dog's lines. So when they're breeding a litter of puppies, they pretty much know both health-wise and temperament-wise what the puppies are going to turn out. Within a spectrum, dogs are individuals, but there's a lot of predictability, and there's predictability. Now, there's no such thing as a guarantee with dogs, but in terms of predictability, you have more of a guarantee, or as close as a guarantee you can get with an ethical breeder. So if you have a low risk tolerance and are not sure you want or are capable of dealing with potential behavioral concerns that come up, you might want to go to a breeder. And if you have specific goals like sports or confirmation or therapy work, a breeder can sometimes be a better choice because that the dog is most likely to be able to do those things. Again, plenty of rescue dogs do those things, but you don't know their background in terms of the parents, the breeds. If they're a mixed breed, there's a lot more unknowns with a rescue dog. Basically, how comfortable are you with not knowing what you're getting. As an adult, I have had 2 rescue dogs and 2 ethically bred dogs, and I am very happy and comfortable with all of the decisions I made. I got exactly what was right for me at the time when I got them, and they have continued to be right for me long term. Editing Charlotte here, and the rest of the video is super out of focus. I'm sorry. I must have touched the camera screen or something and convinced it that my face wasn't a face. But I think the content is still worth listening to, so I hope you'll keep watching. Thanks. My first 2 dogs were rescues, and I chose them because I wanted adult dogs, and I felt really good about giving a homeless dog a home. Both times I adopted rescue dogs, I just wanted a good pet. I wanted dogs that could be lazy and lay around even for more than one day at a time, but dogs that also could keep up with me when I wanted to go on a hike or wanted to travel. And that is exactly what I got in my dogs. And they were great for my level of activity and my lifestyle. I had both of those rescue dogs for the rest of their lives, and I am so glad that I adopted them. It was absolutely the right choice. And my first dog in particular, I call him my soul dog. I was so attached to him, and we were so bonded, and I just could not have made a better decision. It was exactly the right decision. I am still involved in fundraising for his rescue, and I definitely would adopt again. But my 2 most recent dogs are from breeders, and let me tell you why. My second rescue dog I lost to behavioral euthanasia. I will make a video about that soon. Please leave a comment if there's any questions you have about behavioral euthanasia. It was a very painful, traumatic, upsetting experience. And so when I was getting my next dog, I really, like I said, there's no such thing as a guarantee in dogs, but I wanted as close of a guarantee as I could get that I wouldn't have to go through that again. And after talking with some family members in the ethical breeding space, as well as some trainers and my vet, I really decided that a well-bred dog was going to be that guarantee that I was looking for. I was ready for another dog, but I was not ready to put down another dog for severe behavioral issues. Basically, I had a really low risk tolerance for behavioral issues. I wanted a dog from a breeder because I wanted to know that they had generations of solid, stable dogs behind them. I wanted to know that they did not have a history of trauma and that there had been early socialization from the breeder. I wanted to know where my dog came from, and I did not have a high risk tolerance for not knowing. I needed to have as few unknowns as I possibly could. I really wanted a confident dog that could go anywhere, do anything, and was happy and stable, and had gone through a really robust early socialization protocol. So when I was looking for my breeder, I decided that I wanted a golden retriever, and I decided I wanted a dog whose breeder really prioritized puppy culture. And that's exactly what I found. I found a breeder whose program's focus was early socialization, as well as all the other things that make an ethical breeder. And then for my next dog, I did have a higher risk tolerance for the unknowns, partially because I knew I wanted a hound, and hounds are not as prone to behavioral issues, at least in my experience, especially foxhounds, which was the type of hound I wanted. But one of my long-term priorities is to start a small preservation breeding program for American foxhounds. And so in general, a well-bred dog is going to be a better fit for me because I wanted to do conformation and I do want to breed at some point when the time is right so that I can do it as ethically as I possibly can. However, I was very open to adopting a hound as well. I figured that the right dog from the right place would come around when it was the right time. And I was going to make myself available to receive that right dog when it was time, but I was not going to commit to either a rescue dog or a well-bred dog. And so what I did was I reached out to a breeder that I knew I wanted a dog from eventually, or had hoped to have a dog from. And I asked them about getting on their wait list. In the meantime, I had decided that if the right rescue hound popped up that would be a good fit with my golden retriever, and I felt like something was just speaking to me, because that is sort of how I ended up with my first rescue hound, that I was very open to that dog being a rescue dog. So I was just really open to either one. To my surprise, the breeder got back to me and said, well, we aren't planning to breed another litter of foxhounds for a couple years, but we do have one puppy left from our last litter. I'm down to just the whipped cream, so I guess I have to wrap up this coffee chat. So the breeders had kept back 2 puppies from their last litter, and they said that they were willing to let one of those keepers go to another home, hopefully as a show dog, but mostly just a good home. And that ended up being me. And I'm so glad that I ended up with Annabeth. She is a wonderful dog. You know, fingers crossed she will be a good mama dog, a good foundation bitch, as the pros say, for my small preservation breeding program. She has an appointment for her health testing, and she is 5 points into her championship title. So I'm very excited about that. We are 2 wins away. if we're at a larger show, 2 wins away from getting that championship. So she was absolutely the right dog for my long-term goals, and she was the dog that I needed at the time for sure. But I do hope to adopt dogs in the future still. I'm still in contact with my first dog's rescue. I've let them know I'm interested in fostering if they, have a dog that they think would be a good fit for my current dogs and a long-term foster. So yeah, when you decide you're getting a new dog, there are a lot of things to think about. And I don't think going to an ethical rescue versus an ethical breeder is any better or worse than the other one. I think it's all about figuring out what is the right fit for you so that you and your dog can live a nice, stress-free life together. I would love to hear from you, so let me know in the comments where your dog is from and why you chose to get them from that source.